Google Ads. The premise, ultra simple. Pay and you'll be at the top of Google search results. Within hours, potentially your ads can be seen by your target audience. But having run and analyzed hundreds, if not thousands of pay-per-click campaigns in Exposure Ninja over the years, we've noticed that actually there is no faster way to burn your cash than to dump it into an unoptimized Google ad campaign. It's why Google is such a massive company. So in this video, we wanted to bring in some pay-per-click ninjas from Exposure Ninja to talk about how they optimize campaigns and how long it usually takes from setting up a campaign to having that campaign perform at optimal levels. We actually conducted a survey of some internal campaigns here at EN to see what happened to cost per acquisition, or CPA, over time. And what we found was really interesting. What we found was that actually even 9 months into a campaign, the cost per acquisition was still falling. So whilst it's true that you can get some ads running fairly quickly on Google, that period of optimization and fine tuning of a campaign is something that takes months and months and months. And if you leave your campaign to just run itself after a few months, or you give up entirely, you haven't got to that point yet where you're making maximum ROI. So it's really interesting, and the PPC ninjas take us through some examples of campaigns and also some of the optimizations that they're looking at running on a weekly and monthly basis in order to make sure the campaign is performing as effectively as possible. So I hope you enjoy this video, and don't forget, if you want a free review of your Google ad account, then you can just request a free review from Exposure Ninja at exposureninja.com/review. Let us know in the questionnaire that you're interested in a review of your PPC ad account, and we will arrange that with you. So enjoy the video with Lenka, Mink, and V from Exposure Ninja's PPC team.
Hi, I'm Lenka. I'm PPC specialist here in Exposure Ninja.
Hi, I'm Mink. I am also a PPC specialist at Exposure Ninja.
Hi, I'm V, and I'm a PPC specialist at Exposure Ninja.
So, ladies, Google Ads, the premise is really simple. I'm just going to give you some money. You're going to work your magic, and within a few minutes, all of my ads are going to be at the top of Google. I'm going to be generating loads of traffic and just laughing all the way to the bank. Simple, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so having run and analyzed hundreds, if not thousands, of Google ad campaigns at EN, we know that there is no faster way to unload cash than to run a Google ad campaign without proper optimization and without any kind of monthly oversight. I guess we see clients self-manage their campaigns into the ground all the time, aren't they? So brought you all together to talk about how long it takes Google Ads to hit profitability. And the thing that everyone really wants to know is, how do you actually speed up that time from getting the ads live to making them as profitable as they can possibly be? So I know that we've compiled some data about the speed of PPC, looking at our own client campaigns and the sort of results that are possible, which we'll be sharing later on. But first, how long does it take PPC to be profitable, and what are the main types of thing that need to happen in order for a PPC campaign to reach maximum profitability?
Well, firstly, I think it kind of helps to break everything down into chunks. So the first bit would be the time required to build the actual campaign, then the time required for the data to come to it, and then step 3 would be the time required to optimize the campaign. And then the 4th step will be to repeat step 2 and 3 until the campaign is fully tuned and brings the results that we need.
Okay, that makes loads of sense for you. So we've got building and kind of researching and all that type of stuff. Then we've got an initial learning period. Then we've got a time of optimization, and then we basically just repeat that to make the campaign more and more and more efficient, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, if you can set up Google Ads in an hour, then why isn't PPC immediate? And maybe if we talk about that first step that you've outlined, what's the process that we use when we're building a campaign? How can we make that first step as effective as possible so that we can reduce the amount of time needed to kind of optimize it?
Yeah, I'm not sure how we that an hour would be feasible to do PPC. It would be tricky because
Theoretically.
firstly, we would need to ensure that conversion tracking is in place and set up correctly. Because otherwise, what's the point? This is like the most important thing when setting up any PPC campaign, as you need to be able to measure your return on investment really and see where your conversions are coming from. So the second one is we would need to do keyword research as well as competitor analysis to find relevant keywords or search terms that potential customers search for on search engine, when they are looking for specific products and services and such. This will ensure that we are capturing all the correct and relevant terms for the business. Then, once we have gathered all of those keywords, we would need to put them neatly into relevant campaigns and ad groups so it's easier to manage and apply different strategies to. So once we have put that structure in, we would write the ad copies to make sure they correlate with the client's business, website content, tone of voice, as well as making sure they contain, strong USPs as well as clear call to action. So just to make that ads really attractive to people.
So Mink, what I'm hearing from you is you don't just open Google Ad Manager and just start typing away and writing your ads. This is a very structured process, isn't it? So if we go back to the kind of keyword research and competitor analysis, what types of insight are you looking for there? Are you looking for particular groups of keyword that are going to be profitable, or is this just casting a really broad net to see, what are other people doing in this space so that you can refine later on, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so we definitely first start with like what people usually search for, and then see what competitors are bidding on all of their ads and things, just to make sure we are doing what competitors are doing and above and beyond that. Yeah, just to really compete there. But what we usually would do is to put like broad keywords. So we don't just have like 100 keywords targeting. So we just have like the good ones that will cover all of those, hundreds and more search terms.
Okay, but on that topic, one of the dangers with self-managed client campaigns that we've taken over is that they've just got really broad keywords and they're picking up all sorts of rubbish. So how do you get that balance? And this is probably an optimization thing, but how do you get that balance in the startup when you're setting up the campaign initially between just, having your ads show for a whole bunch of non-relevant stuff, but making sure that we're targeting a wide enough audience that we actually get impressions on the ads?
That's definitely, you need to see when you do analysis that are these informational. If they're just looking for let's say dog toys, maybe they could be searching, or dog let's say dog food, they could just be searching. You need to make sure they are as high purchase intent as possible. That's definitely one thing you have to look at, because you can just be bringing in so many traffic that would just be mostly looking at blog posts rather than buying something. Yeah. So that's definitely one thing you need to make sure.
Got it. So even doing this competitor research and the keyword analysis and all that stuff, you're still putting everything through your filter of, is this commercial? Is this going to lead to a purchase? Okay, got it. All right. So then we've got the ad campaign set up and we've done our research and we've had a look at competitors. We've actually, before we move on, I've got to ask you about like campaign structure as well. So you mentioned there that you'd kind of group services or products into different ad groups or into different campaigns. Like, how important is that structure in the early days of the campaign versus just, one campaign and let's just test everything underneath that and see what works and go from there?
It's just better because we have had many client reviews that do exactly just that, one service, one campaign. Sometimes they have like 20 different pages and they do 20 different campaigns, which would explode their budget tremendously. And it would just be better to group that just for like collective strategy application rather, because you don't want to be spending like 20 hours a day just applying the same method to different 20 different campaigns. You want to do that collectively, and grouping allows you to categorize rather, so you're not just like doing one. It's just categorizing and just making really targeted strategies and things.
Okay, and we build all of this stuff in a spreadsheet rather than building it straight into Google Ads, right? Why do we do that? Why not just build it straight in?
It just so we can get second opinions, and we can do quality check, because we just import them in, it's there, and it's all messy, and you have to delete everything and then redo everything again. Put it in a spreadsheet allows you to look at it better, manage it way better, rather than just having to, create and then you realize you should have done this and then delete everything. It's just way easier that way.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, isn't it, rather than like clicking through all the ad groups and stuff in Google Ads, which is a complete nightmare.
Yeah, you can easily also see where, in case sometimes like, oh, well, this keyword is perhaps too similar, so I could put it into this ad group or this campaign. So it's easier to see and organize your keywords and ad groups and campaigns.
Definitely, yeah.
Got it, cool. What other optimizations are you making early on in a campaign?
So one of the first and most important things is to monitor your search queries reports. This is a must. You have to check the quality of the campaign traffic, that just to make sure that your keywords are generating well and bringing the most relevant traffic, and that is good for your business. Otherwise, you're just spending money on just things that you shouldn't be. So another thing is cost per click, CPC. So how much are you paying for each click? Where on the search results page are your ads showing? Are you getting enough traffic? If the CPCs are too high but not bringing a conversion, then further analysis definitely needs to be done to see why this is the case.
Mick, on CPCs, so I know we've got a client at the moment who's in a space where they're paying around about £30 a click, and the gut reaction for them is, oh, £30 a click. Oh, that doesn't feel good. That feels awful. The argument always is CPA. It doesn't matter how much you're spending per click. If you're happy with the cost per lead, then you're happy. Exactly. But how do you reconcile this balance between everyone in my market is bidding on this one keyword and it's massively inflated the price versus, do you know what, actually that keyword's good value? Like, how do you know what a decent CPC is? That's an almost impossible question to answer, so go for it.
Okay. So it just depends if you are bringing in like relevant conversion, because like some of our clients, we have to bid on their competitors, which is like massive CPC as well. But it was bringing in some results that, they weren't getting with just normal, way cheaper CPC. So that's definitely, you have to, once you put it in, you have to monitor and see if it's worth it, What you can do is, or you can put the max CPC on with the bidding, so you can make sure it doesn't overspend massively. Or you're not spending like £50 on each click or something. But yes, I think it's to justify whether you are bringing good conversion from that, if they are worth paying. And you can also look at, your order value, how much you're getting for that, for each click and things. So yeah, just mostly looking at that.
I guess this also ties into a kind of broader marketing question, which is around how much should you be willing to spend to get a customer? And this is going to vary from business to business. But when we did the analysis of the Hut Group's website, for example, and they're offering, 10, 15, 20% off first order, and they're bidding on Google Shopping, and it's for a low cost product, you're thinking there's no way they're making money on the first sale. They've got to be losing money on the first sale, but they're happy to do that because they know their average lifetime value and the average order value over however many orders happen per year. So they're happy to play that game. So I suppose there's a bit of a reality check for businesses that if you're selling a, £10 product and you're spending £1 per click, you're going to have a business model that can justify losing money on sale one.
Yeah, definitely. Average order value, like how much profit you're making from that, is definitely the big one. Like sometimes you can be bidding on something that costs like 20 per click, but your sale order is about 20,000, which is like,
You do that all day. Yeah. Cool. What other optimizations are we looking at?
And the other one is the time and day of the week that your ads are showing. So you see when your ads are most profitable, and increase bidding or focus on those time ranges. And also make sure it's relevant to your business. Let's say if you have call extension, so you shouldn't be advertising your ads on midnight because no one's going to pick up that phone call. You shouldn't do that on the weekend, for instance, just to really fit with your business as well as seeing where the most profitable.
Well, it's just giving me an idea. If you're getting lots of conversions out of hours, even though you don't work out of hours, you should have an out of hours phone number, because then you're going to be paying less per conversion, because your competitors are going to be like, nah, we don't want this out of hours, we're rubbish. Anyway.
That could be a demand as well that we can look at. Do you know that people are calling you or messaging you at this hour of hours? And then we can suggest to them, to the business, that maybe you should look into this service.
Interesting.
We actually recently have a client who was a plumber, and he was advertising 24/7, and most of these calls were happening out of hours. So because it was so competitive during the day, because he was based in London as well, which is obviously one of the most competitive areas in UK. So most of these conversions were happening at 3 o'clock in the morning, but he was happy, because it was I'm a new business, so I have to take this risk and these phone calls, and it was. What I want to say is sometimes you need to advertise out of hours just to be more competitive, especially if you are very new, or when your account is very new, just per se, because you might be in the business for years and years, but you've never advertised online. Whereas some of the people who advertise online for years, they have, they optimize their accounts, and their strategies are probably kicking in. So you are like a newcomer, that, you need to kind of earn your place on the top positions, rather than just I'm just going to pay 30 pounds per click. Sometimes it's what you have to do.
That's interesting. So it's almost like a marketing strategy within the Google Ads ecosystem. You got to find your USPs against your fellow advertisers. Love it. Okay. So we set the ad campaign up and we've pressed go, and now the money starts flying in, right? How long do we leave things running before making any tweaks? And how do we know when something's working, and how do we know when something isn't working?
Well, I guess that really depends on the account. Sometimes tweaks are necessary after a day. New campaigns usually require daily monitoring, so it will just, again, really depend on the actual campaign. Generally speaking, though, the more data that we collect, the faster we can make actual informed decisions on potential changes. And that usually takes between 3 weeks to a month, just to kind of gather the amount of data that we need. And again, it also depends on the actual business that we're advertising on. So, for example, if we have an e-commerce shop and a client, we can see their customers' purchasing habits, and how they're changing throughout the month. So sometimes with campaigns like that, it's better to optimize it on a monthly basis rather than daily or weekly basis. It kind of gives you a clearer picture of stuff.
Okay, and what sort of insight are we looking for as we're having a look at the campaign sort of get live and start bringing in traffic, V?
Well, there are a lot of different things that go into it. So one would be the search terms that people are doing. So what people are searching for, are our search terms that we're bidding for relevant? The traffic quality as well. So are we getting a lot of traffic but not many conversions? So that would mean that something is wrong there. We'll also be looking at the conversions that we're getting. And all sorts of KPIs like the cost per click, for example, the CTR percentage. If the CTR is high, then yes, we are targeting the correct terms. However, if the conversions are low, then we're not doing something right. And we need to change something, either the, call to action, the actual message for the ads, and everything else. So that really depends.
And with something like looking at click-through rate and conversion rate, so for those who aren't like up on what CTR means, so click-through rate, this is the percentage of people that are clicking on the ad that have seen the ad, right? So if you've got an ad that's running which has a really high click-through rate, that would imply that people are interested in what the ad is selling, so lots of them are clicking on it. But if you've then got a low conversion rate after that, so lots of people are clicking on it, but not many people are buying or becoming a lead, how can you begin to diagnose whether that's an ad problem, like the ad copy is saying get free money now and everyone's clicking on it, versus a website problem where the ads sound really good, but then they go on the website and they're like, this is horrendous? Like, how do we know where things are breaking down in the chain, if they are breaking down?
Well, usually we look at the bounce rate metrics, and then it will be a lot easier to install a heat map from Hotjar or just some sort of recordings. So then we can track what people are actually doing on the site. So they'll come through an ad that would be very well optimized. And then if they land on a landing page or a website that doesn't necessarily portray what they're looking for, they're not really going to buy. So when we have a recording of them seeing what they're doing on the site, see where something goes wrong, then we'll be able to say, okay, there's a missing call to action button, for example, on the site, or it's not clear enough. Or maybe if people are looking, as Ming said in previous example, for dog food, but they land on a very informational site rather than buying, then yeah, there's a problem with the actual site, and then we can go and action this rather than tweaking the ads further and making something wrong.
So what would be some of the things that we've done during those campaigns to bring those CPAs down?
So the first thing to do is to do bid strategy testing. So we can see which automated bidding strategy that could work really well with particular campaigns, because some campaigns benefit more than others, like maximize clicks can work better, or conversion could work better. It's just doing that test. So another thing is to review locations, devices, products, performance, and ad copies, just to narrow everything down and increase focus on the ones that bring in the most conversions. You can definitely be a lot more ruthless with this and get that detailing in, just to make sure you are squeezing all of that conversion out. And another one is, we have discussed previously, but it's worth reiterating. Can't say that one. But it's worth reiterating. Is to review heat maps and UX to see what website user experience is like. If people are doing what we want them to be doing on the website, if the website is doing the job they're supposed to do.
Okay, got it. So we've kind of looked at the data that's coming in, and what sort of typical optimizations would you actually what would you actually be doing in the account at this stage after collecting this data? Is it things like bid adjustments and negative keywords and that type of thing?
Yeah, definitely negative keywords are something very necessary for us that we do. These basically we make sure by adding those that we're not going to be showing the ads for unnecessary searches or people who would not really be interested. So if it's dog food, again, I don't know why we're getting
just on everyone's mind at the moment.
So if it's dog food purchases, or specific like salmon flavored dog food, then people would be looking to buy salmon flavored dog food, and we're not going to be adding search terms like how would salmon dog food help my dog feel better, so we would in this case exclude the how to, so that we don't show up for informational stuff if we want to sell the actual product. So that would be something definitely that we would be looking at. Another thing that is really good to look at is the device and location, and also times of day bid adjustments. So for example, time of day, if we see that an ad is taking a lot of the conversions from, let's say, a certain amount of 11 a.m. until 12 p.m. or something like that, then we'll know that this is where the most active people are. Maybe we can put some more of the bidding into it. Location kind of works the same. So if we have a client that's targeting nationwide, but then we see that most of the purchases are coming from different cities. So let's say they're targeting the whole of the UK, but we see that a lot of purchases or conversions in general coming from London and Birmingham and Nottingham and whatever, then we know that instead of wasting away a budget for the whole country, we can just concentrate on different areas and just optimize the campaigns a little bit better. So these are the sort of things that we'll look at.
So you're not, so with that location thing there, that wouldn't necessarily only apply to a local focused business, would it? Like what you're saying there is if you had a site, an e-com site that was selling dog food and you noticed that there was variance with different geographies and one different geography was performing well, you're saying that you'd actually put positive bid adjustment or negative bid adjustment on others to get more traffic from that area, even though it's not a local business?
Yeah.
Cool. So you're just looking for any winners across device, location, interest, keywords. Yep. You're just looking for any kind of pockets of winners that you can put more budget behind.
Yeah, and just optimize those, and then looking at what they and how they are optimized to kind of try and push the other areas. So whatever it is that we're trying to kind of achieve, like push other products. For example, if we see that salmon-based dog food is selling better than chicken, then we're gonna try and optimize the chicken one as well as the salmon one to make it like a bestseller.
Got it. How does all of this change with the machine learning and the AI targeting options in Google? Like how long do we need to give those tools to come up with optimizations?
Well, again, that would depend on the changes that we make. For major changes, it does take a little bit more for the AI to learn. Generally, I would say about 3-ish weeks, maybe some between about 2 and 3 weeks is, in my opinion, to get the machine learning to have time to learn the new optimizations that we've created. So yeah, probably about 3 weeks will be best.
Cool. I wanted to go back to this question about landing pages, because often what appears to be a PPC question ends up actually being a landing page question, particularly if the website hasn't performed well previously. One of the reasons that we kind of do the PPC reviews before taking on new campaigns is so that we can have a look and see where we think the breakdown might be. I just wanted to ask you guys again, like, how do you know if a landing page needs tweaking? And V mentioned their Hotjar and heat maps. Like, what sort of tools do people have at their disposal other than, hey, it's just not working on any channel, or we're not getting the conversion rate that we want on any channel? How do we actually know that it's the landing page that's breaking down?
Definitely, you would see from the click-through rate of the ads and such. If they're performing well, then people are clicking on the ads and things and no conversion. Like we mentioned before, you know that there is something wrong. But one thing for sure is that you should never, advertise landing page that's gonna not convert as well, because that just means like you just throwing all your money away for nothing. So the indicator definitely would be the bounce rate. If you see that, especially with most of the campaigns, unless it's a blog post, people usually would just go on different pages, and if that if they just spend time there for like a second and then just leave, then that must mean there is something wrong, whether the content is not relevant to them, or it doesn't match what they're seeing on the ads and such. And if they're not clicking onto other pages, why is that the case? Is the navigation not clear enough, or are the buttons and things not clear enough for people to check out other pages? So definitely would need a lot more in-depth page analysis, and Hotjar is definitely one thing that very effective, because it literally records what people are doing on your page. So
So I'm going to be horrendous now and ask you for some ballpark numbers on bounce rate, because one of the things that we notice is that PPC bounce rate can be higher than organic, but it can still have a significant ROI because the traffic is so well qualified despite having a high bounce rate. So if it's possible, let's take an ecom site, and let's say it's like a B2C e-commerce site. What sort of bounce rate would be flashing a big red flag at you that says there's something about this site that's, really, assuming that the ad is relevant and the search term and all that stuff is good, what sort of bounce rate starts to be a red flag to you where you're like, something's going wrong here?
So I think it also depends on the type of the campaign, because from search and shopping campaigns, the bounce rates tend to be lower. So let's say, I would say about 60 to 65% is kind of a normal bounce rate for search and shopping campaigns. And you have display campaigns or video campaigns that usually brings traffic to your site and have these tend to have a higher bounce rate. So it's normal to actually see bounce rate around 80% from these particular campaigns. But yeah, these would, like, if there is anything higher than that, then you probably start looking like, okay, what's going on? And typically, if it's an e-commerce website and you're seeing a high bounce rate, I would probably say just do a price research, because like often it might happen that people come to your site and they're like, oh, well, that's too expensive. So I saw this exact same product on a different website for £10 cheaper. So sometimes even a pound cheaper can make a lot of difference, like in terms of conversion. It's like, yeah, people are always looking for the best bargain, and they do a lot of research now before they buy.
Well, it's a good question. I suppose that's one of the biggest challenges for businesses that are selling a product that other competitor sites are selling, and they don't necessarily have an inherent price advantage because maybe they don't have the scale or the buying power that their larger competitors might have. So I suppose in that case, it's about making a case on that landing page for other things like any free gifts with purchase or any favorable delivery terms, or I suppose there's other kind of components in there, but you do have to be able to justify a higher price, don't you? Because the customer isn't going to say, yeah, but they're probably not getting as favorable buying terms from the distributor, so of course I'm just going to pay a little bit more for this identical product. Is there ever a way that you can outmarket something as serious as a price disadvantage?
Like different offers would really work. Different offers, get free delivery option, because one of our clients that actually is very expensive for what they're offering, but they're doing actually fairly okay, because they can pinpoint the things that their audience are looking for. Let's say I think it was a organic web shop, so they gotta have like different things to pinpoint. They have something like, let's say, we plant a tree every time you order something, recyclable packaging and all of that. Anything that you think your audience will love, that your business is doing, even if it doesn't mean that your price is cheaper, that could be very attractive to what people are looking for.
Got it. Cool. All right. So the survey then, the main metric that we kind of measure and target internally at Exposure Ninja is the cost per acquisition, or like cost per sale or cost per lead or whatever. So we set the PPC team a task, didn't we? Find out how much on average the profitability of a PPC campaign improves each quarter when professionally managed. So I think we tracked the performance of 5 e-commerce and 5 lead gen campaigns over 3 quarters to see what happened to this CPA as the campaigns went through the optimization process that you've just kind of outlined. Broadly speaking, what did we find in the survey?
So the conversions increased significantly in Q2, and then even more in Q3. CPA as well. So obviously, if the conversions decreased, the cost per conversion decreased in Q2 and even more in Q3. And that also means that return on investment increased in Q2 and in Q3. So the first quarter really is about the setup, is about the data, even data gathering, where you understand your customers, you see what you're searching for. you understand their habits, especially when it's an e-commerce website, because sometimes you can see more sales happening towards beginning of end of the month, and some particular websites might see more sales middle of the month. So it's important to understand your customers as well, as what they search for, and then optimize your campaigns based on data collected, rather than, oh, I think this is going to work well for me. So it always make the decision based on data and on quality data as well.
I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think people are used to, you know, a timeline for SEO to take effect, and whilst obviously PPC, the ads are live much quicker, what we're saying is that the performance of the campaigns wasn't optimal even 6 months in, and that actually profitability was continuing to improve even 9 months into managing the campaign, and you're still bringing that cost per acquisition down.
Yeah, like you can do it. Like if you have really good optimized campaigns, you still can optimize them more and more every month. So for example, we've had one business that sells food packaging, and they started off with the CPA, which was quite good, £24 for their business. But in Q2, this decreased to £17. In Q3, this was brought down to £5.73. So it's incredible. It's a huge difference, you know. So the cost per acquisition decreased in 9 months by 76%, and the sales increased by 10 times more.
Wow. So from
yeah.
£24 in Q1, £17 Q2, £5.73 in Q3. So that's not even like, let's just continue the ramp. That's like CPA plummeting, right? That's huge.
Yeah, because you're making this decision based on data. So you have, you know, like, and especially when you get to know this campaign really well, you know what is working, and you can, like we say, like be ruthless, but push what works the best. And obviously, if you combine this with smart bidding strategies that Google has available, I think you can definitely get there. Another example would be a campaign that we started last year. So the cost per acquisition was £81 at the beginning in Q1. So we brought it down to 65 in Q2 and down to 40 in Q3. So reducing the cost per lead by more than 50%. So when they started with us, their cost per acquisition, this was a takeover actually. So they were already running this campaign for a long time, and their cost per acquisition was 80, and then we took over, made some changes, and we brought it down to 40, which I think is amazing. And you know, it's not just that we decreased the cost per acquisition, but because the budget remained the same, we increased the numbers of leads that they received. So we went from 440 leads per month to 1,500. So that's another amazing result.
What were, you know, I love extreme, crazy. What was the most ridiculous results that you found in the study?
Yeah, there was one client that went from Q1 cost per acquisition, which was £186.42, and increased to £9 in Q2.
Right.
And in Q3, it fell by another 30% to £6.14. So that was amazing.
Okay, so well, that one's kind of interesting then, because from £186, I think you said, to £9 in the first between Q1 and Q2. So obviously that one did see a massive drop in Q1, and yes, it saw another drop to £6 in Q3, but you know, it dropped CPA by like 95% in the first quarter. So what sorts of conditions would have to be present for that sort of result to happen? Because that is absurd.
Yeah, so you definitely have to have a good website and offer. So you know, you need present your unique selling points well. So when people come onto your website, you know, like they buy straight away. Because one of the things you need to understand as well, that which was something I wanted to touch based upon, is that people might not always buy from you on the very first visit. So what might happen is that they come to your website through PPC, they look around, they're like, okay, yeah, shortlist your website, and then they go perhaps away, but then they might return or directly or organically or via a totally different channel. And then you will be thinking like, my PPC isn't working, but like, no, it is, because the customers actually discovered you thanks to PPC. So it's one of the things to also really understand the user journey. But if you are seeing that, okay, so my customers are discovering me through PPC, but they're not converting on the very first visit, on the very first touch points, what we can do to make them convert on the very first touch point. I think that would be a question that I would ask, like, okay, so we see that they're coming back, but why are they leaving? Why are they coming back? So I think this should be addressed, on the landing pages or product pages even, just to make sure that they are capable, or like, they are capable to make the decision right away. Like, oh yes, I need this, and I don't need to shop anywhere else. I don't need to go anywhere else, because I know this is the best I'm gonna get.
That's a very good point. Quite a lot of conversion optimization is allowing people to kind of mentally check off that task that they've had in their mind. Particularly important for service companies, isn't it? Like, if my wife's nagging me to finally sort out this thing, and I just want to go on a website and be able to mentally check it off and say, yeah, babe, I've contacted someone, and that's done, and then I'm not shopping around. I'm not, they're not even having to compete in a shortlist, because I feel like I've taken an action which gets me closer to my goal of being left in peace. What other tips do we have for listeners and viewers that are running Google Ads, and maybe some are frustrated with their performance? What can we give them that's going to help them improve the performance of their campaigns?
Again, I would just stress what the girls already said. Just make sure that your landing pages are optimized. Make sure that your offer is appealing and there is a clear, unique selling points. Ensure you're tracking your conversions as well, because that's important. Because and also understand your customer journey, like we just said. Yeah, you might be sitting there and thinking like, all of my conversions are coming from organic or direct or email, but you might find out that customers are actually signing up for your emails, and then they're converting when you send them the email. So it is important to understand how the users are interacting with your site when they come to your site from PPC. And also, one of very important things to mention is to don't underestimate your budget, because I know that it's very scary to be like, right, okay, I'm going to spend, like, especially now when your campaigns are perhaps not delivering the results you might want. And like, if I tell you like, okay, you just need to invest more, you'll be like, nah.
Yeah, generally with investment, that's not the way it works, is it? Like, oh, I'm getting a really bad ROI, let's just crank things up a little bit. I can understand how that's scary. I think we might have had this conversation once or twice with the Exposure Ninja campaign, Lenka.
But I always persuaded you that basically we need to spend more, because I know it sounds crazy, but you will get more traffic onto your website. You'll be able to optimize it more, and you will be able to get the return much faster. So we often see the clients that actually spend more get faster results than the clients that spend less. So in reality, it's actually more cost effective to spend more, because you will get the return much faster, and your return will be greater.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? And you're right, it's a very logical argument. It's I suppose there is a cutoff point. You don't want to take out a 200k bounce back loan and just dump it all into PPC, because you haven't been getting the ROI that you wanted with £10 a day for the first 2 weeks. But you do need to, particularly if there's any like algorithmic audience targeting involved, there is a certain amount of data that needs to feed that beast, isn't there, before it's going to work. And well, I guess the same with human optimization. If you're trying to improve the performance of a campaign that's getting 50 clicks a day, well, you've got to be realistic about how many conversions you're actually going to get for that. and how fast you're going to be able to make those changes.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I would also recommend is to perhaps ask someone else who has a PPC experience to look at your account, because you might have experience, you are running your campaigns for a long time. But I personally find that this is what I love about working in an agency, is that we've got like so many great ninjas here, and we can always like bounce ideas from each other, and like just having this another pair of eyes. Oh yeah, you probably could try this. Or like everybody has a different experience, so you could probably try this. I tried this on a different account and it really worked well for me. Or I had a similar situation before. So, just I think bouncing the ideas up from somebody else, just having the another pairs of eyes on the campaign might be really, really helpful. Because, you might be looking at the thing like forever and you'll be like, just don't know what to change. But then somebody else comes like from a fresh perspective and they just say something so obvious and you're like, oh yeah.
Well, it's a very good point, and it's also one of the we often get clients asking, do you have any other businesses in our space, because we really want that kind of that industry insider knowledge. And whilst there's a huge amount of value in insider knowledge, there's also a huge amount of value in outsider knowledge, and like you say, lessons that you could take from maybe a completely unrelated campaign in an unrelated market. But actually, if that strategy has not been seen in this space before, or if it's a self-managed campaign, I'm thinking of one guy, I don't know if you'll know who it is, but running his own campaign for many, many years, maybe over 10 years, and he had it really finely tuned. And his insider knowledge, we were never going to be able to compete with that. But the way that we're able to get improvement on CPA was by actually saying, well, this insider knowledge is great, let's try some other stuff that has worked elsewhere. So I think there is, like you say, there's as much value sometimes in outsider knowledge as insider knowledge.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So ladies, this has been amazing. I love talking to PPC ninjas. You have the amazing balance of technical geekery with common sense, and I love it. What can listeners or viewers do if they want you and your fellow PPC ninjas to review their PPC campaign?
They can ask for a review.
They would just need to go to exposureninja.com/review, and then we'll be on their case.
In the best possible way, yeah. So we'll do the review for you, and you can send us your Google ad ID, and then we'll do a free analysis of your campaign. It's amazing. It's really good to see where the low-hanging fruit might exist in your campaign, and of course we can discuss getting that thing optimized and improved for you if necessary. Thanks, team. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Brilliant. So I hope you enjoyed finding out all about PPC. Don't forget, if you want a free review of your PPC account, as V said, go to exposureninja.com/review to request that. And of course, if you like this video, drop us a comment to let us know, click on like, and don't forget to subscribe. You can also check out the Exposure Ninja podcast on all good podcast platforms, and all the bad ones actually. So just search for Exposure Ninja on whatever platform you choose.